You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I am your host, Steph, and ladies and gentlemen, we are officially in game week mode. The 49ers play in 5 days, and what I'm going to be doing today is previewing the 49ers defense, how they match up with the Bears offense. So before I do that, now that we're in the regular season, thought it'd be good to get back into the mode of bringing back all the old 49 Carat podcast segments. And so without further ado, I'm going to just start with the first one. If you guys have followed 49 Carats podcast for a long time, you already know some of these. The first one is This Week in 49ers History. I pretty much just talk about a tidbit that happened this week in 49ers history. Is literally what it sounds like. So the one that I got for you today is Jerry Rice related. Okay. So the GOAT, Jerry Rice, he scored 3 touchdowns on Monday Night Football against the Raiders in the 1994 season opener, surpassing Jim Brown's record of most career touchdowns scored. Jerry Rice still holds that record, by the way. He has 33 more touchdowns than any other player in league history. Got to give it up to the GOAT. So that happened yesterday, I believe, in 1994. Yesterday's date in 1994, I should say. Another little tidbit. In 2005, Jerry Rice announced his retirement from the NFL. That one's a bit of a sad one. But he retired because he found out that he was going to be the 4th wide receiver on the Seahawks depth chart. So he is like, nah, I'm out. Like, GOAT things right there. So shout out to Jerry Rice, the GOAT. What's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for joining me today. What's going on, Mariah? Listen to Mariah. She said, hit that like button. And I have to say really quickly, you guys surpassed my 30 like goal in our last video. We almost hit 35 likes on the last video. So let's see if we can hit 35 likes on this one. We can hit the goal. I believe in us. All right, let's run it up. Let's get those likes up. Let's go. Appreciate you guys. All right, let's go. All right, so before I go into the preview, I got some 49ers news as well to talk about. Let's look at that really quickly because it has been a while since I've talked to you guys, right? It was a Labor Day weekend. I took some time off, didn't really do any lives. So let me go over some news that we heard since the last time that I went live. John Lynch said the team is talking to a few players about extensions. You guys hear about that? Do you guys have any guesses what players he might be talking about? I mean, the low-hanging fruit there is Nick Bosa, right? They definitely are going to want to talk extension with Nick Bosa. Now, whether or not they've already started those discussions, I don't know. It could be. It very well could be. There's going to be a lot of back and forth on that one, I could imagine. But some other candidates that, might be in discussion about extensions, Jimmy Ward. I know he's hurt right now, but that, from a business standpoint, might actually be a great time, actually, to talk about extensions because, if you're thinking from the football team perspective, you're thinking, okay, he's a little bit cheaper now that he's hurt. And then you can start the extension talk. Jimmy Ward is someone who I would love for him to be a 49er for his entire career. And so I hope that extensions are in the works with Jimmy Ward. Emmanuel Mosley is another candidate. Dre Greenlaw, Azeez Al-Shaair. There's a lot of names that potentially, but I'm curious to know what you guys think. Say it in the comments who you think the 49ers are in extension talks with. Look, Jimmy Garoppolo, he's back in the fold, okay? He started practicing with the team again last week. It looked a little weird. I'm not going to lie to you. It looked strange, especially knowing that he's the RB2, right? But I mean, we're just going to have to get used to it. But you know who else was at practice? Trent Williams, he was back last week, so he's good to go. Deebo Samuel and Eric Armstead were back this week. at practice. So that is a good sign that both of those guys are going to be out there week 1. And Dante Johnson, he signed to the practice squad. I know the running joke is Dante Johnson, when he was cut from 53, before 53, I should say, everyone was like, he'll be back. And that's like the running joke. And lo and behold, Dante Johnson is back on the practice squad. And he's coming back from injury. But right now, he's no longer in the blue no contact jersey. He is someone who the 49ers can, look to plug and play at safety on Sunday. I don't know if it happens. We'll have to wait and see, but he's definitely an option for this team. Couple other bits of news. The 49ers tried out a few guys for their practice squad, and they signed a couple guys, right? So you might have heard about this. Tight end turned offensive lineman Leroy Watson from UTSA. The 49ers signed him to the practice squad. Very interesting guy. He's a former 270-pound tight end who's now 300 pounds or more at tackle, right? So he has 35-inch arms. That's pretty impressive. So the 49ers pretty much just, taking on a bit of a project, right? And Leroy Watson, seeing if they can do anything interesting with him. The 49ers definitely love to have some guys who have experience in different positions and could somewhat play a hybrid role or, do things like that. Jason Poe comes to mind, right? So Leroy Watson could be in that similar mold. Another guy that the 49ers signed to their practice squad was linebacker Buddy Johnson. And you know what? They wanted to sign a running back to their practice squad as well. And that running back being Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon, however, he got picked up by the Eagles. So best of luck to Trey Sermon. I'm sure, maybe he can make some contributions out there in Philadelphia. Wishing him the best. But since they didn't get Trey Sermon to the practice squad, the 49ers tried out former Baylor running back Abram Smith. So they had him in for a workout. Haven't heard anything about him being signed to the practice squad yet, but I would imagine that last practice squad spot that they have open, they want to have it for running back because there aren't any running backs on the practice squad right now. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, you know what? Let's talk about New Jersey numbers because we need to be informed out there because on Sunday there's going to be some new faces, right? And some new numbers. So we want you guys to know who's going to be out there. Charvarius Ward, he changed his number to 7. I believe he was 35, I think, during training camp, I should say. And during the preseason. So now he's number 7, okay? Rocking the former Colin Kaepernick, number 7, will be Charvarius Ward on the defensive side of the ball. Brock Purdy, we're not going to see him out on the field, at least hopefully not, right? But Brock Purdy is going to be number 13. Jordan Mason, he's going to be 24, rocking the Kobe number. I love that for him. And Danny Gray, he's going to be number 6, rocking his old number from college. And Tyler Kroft, he's going to be number 81. Blake Hans, who is one of the new offensive linemen, the 49ers, if you recall, they claimed him off of waivers after the Browns cut him. He's going to be wearing number 61, okay? So look out for those guys. All right, you guys are blowing up the comments. Let's jump to these really quickly before I move on. Man, you guys are giving score predictions. Summer snowstorm in Chicago. Hey, I saw that it's going to rain in Chicago for the game, so that makes things interesting, right? I mean, who do you think that gives the advantage to? Did that give the advantage to the 49ers or the Bears? Regardless, I think we see a lot of running in this game. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. All right. Yeah, you guys are talking about some of the players who you think the 49ers are talking extensions with. Hopefully Jimmy Ward. I think Bosa waits until next year. That's what Jason Ells said. Yeah, totally. They could wait on Nick Bosa, but at the same time, I mean, you want to get those discussions started early, right? There's going to be a lot to chip away at there. Jason also says, hopefully Mosley and Aziz as well. Mosley, he was on a 2-year contract. Is he on a 2-year contract? They could still extend him, though. I mean, even though he's on a 2-year, they could start those conversations early. But yeah, there's a number of different players that the 49ers can look to keep around. I know you said, so David here says take care of the Captain Ward first, then Bosa. I like that. It's not a bad idea. Jason Els asks, what's your take on them not having a single running back on the practice squad? Definitely is somewhat of a concern, especially, given how quickly the 49ers run through their running backs in regards to like injuries. There always seems to be injuries in the running back room. So you definitely want to have someone on the practice squad you can bring up whenever you need. So yeah, I mean, I would assume they have one practice squad spot left. I would assume they're holding that for a running back. So I'm not too worried about it. They'll get to it. Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Keith says Dante Johnson and Jordan Matthews are going to be with Niners when zombie apocalypse happens. Yeah, they're 49ers for life for whatever reason. The 49ers just can't quit those guys. Gennaro says Marlon Mack was dropped. Let's go get him on the practice squad. Dude, Marlon. I thought Marlon Mack ended up on a practice squad. I think he got signed to a practice squad, if I'm not mistaken. Can't look it up right now, but yeah, I would love Marlon Mack though if he's not already been swooped. Yeah, we don't have any running backs on the practice squad. Yeah, Joey says number 7 is going to be hard on the field. Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see number 7 back on the field for the 49ers. It'll be a little weird, right? Because when you think number 7, you think Colin Kaepernick. But Charvarius Ward, I think he's deserving of that, and we'll see what he looks like out there. Callie Young says, Steph, 5 days away, faithful. Steph, who are we starting at safety in replace of J-Dub? So I'm not sure. And that was actually part of the discussion today. Talanoa Hufanga obviously will be the strong safety, and who they have at free safety, I really don't know. Like I said, Dante Johnson could be someone that they bring up. George Odom could be someone that they have out there, as well as Tarvarius Moore. So they have options. I don't think they're gonna make that announcement, sooner than they need to, right? But it'll definitely be interesting to see who's going to be out there next to Talanoa Hufanga on Sunday. It'll definitely be interesting. Talanoa Hufanga is now number 30, says David. Does anyone know what Odom's new number will be? That is a good question. I feel like I had that written down somewhere, but maybe someone in the comments could help us out while I continue on here. We'll let you know in the comments, David. If anyone knows George Odom's new number, let's try to answer that really quickly. Jason says he thinks George Odom will start over Moore, but they will swap them in and out. Yes, I think that it's more likely that they might do they might try both of those guys in those spots and just kind of see who has the hotter hand and then just stick with whoever that is. Because, those guys have different strengths. Tarvarius Moore, I know a lot of people were excited about Moore, but, during the preseason, there were some moments where he did struggle. So, it's given some fans some pause on whether he should be out there, and I have to wonder if the 49ers feel the same way. So I think George Odom is probably your safer option. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what they say. I definitely have no idea what they're going to do there. What happened to my overlay? Here we go. All right. So let's talk about this matchup, though, from the defensive side of the ball. All right. If I can find my notes over here. So when I think about this matchup from the defensive side of the ball, you guys probably think the same thing as me, right? You think about the 49ers' very good, very dominant defensive line going against the Bears' putrid offensive line, right? Like, that's our perception of the Bears' offensive line, is that they're terrible. Interesting enough, though, ESPN ranked the Bears' offensive line as the 11th best in the league. And this was a projection, by the way, a projection for the new year. So not based on last season. ESPN ranked the Bears offensive line as the 11th best. Now, I want to show you guys just how differently this group is going to look for the Bears out there. So they did make a lot of changes to their offensive line in hopes that it's going to be better than last year. So last year in week 8, when the 49ers played the Bears, the Bears had left tackle Jason Peters, left guard Cody Whitehair, center Sam Mustipher, great name, right guard James Daniels, and right tackle Larry Borum. If you look at their projected week 1 starters, they have a lot of new faces. So Cody Whitehair, he's still there at left guard. Larry Borum is still there at right tackle. But all the other guys are new starters. Sounds familiar, right? The 49ers kind of have a lot of new starters there too. But they even have a rookie, okay? So their 5th round pick this year, Braxton Jones, he's the projected starter at left tackle for the Bears for week 1. Like I said, Cody Whitehair, he's still there. And at center, they have a new starter in Lucas Patrick. He's a veteran. And at right guard, they're going to have Tevin Jenkins, 2nd-year player for the Bears. So a lot of new faces. And what the Bears hope is that this is a better offensive line than it was last year, right? So it'll be interesting to see if these new, most of them younger faces, how they fare going up against, Nick Bosa and Javon Kinlaw and things like that. So let's talk about Nick Bosa, first of all, and who he's going to be matching up with here. So let me see here. Yeah, Bosa in 2021 in week 8, he had 6 total pressures, 2 sacks, and 3 tackles for loss. And some of that was against Larry Borum. So Larry Borum gave up 2 pressures, a hurry, and a sack. And I believe that sack is Nick Bosa's sack. So that's what Larry Borum gave up. And as you guys see, Larry Borum is projected to start once again. So he's going to see his fair share of Nick Bosa, as well as Braxton Jones, who I mentioned is the rookie for the Bears. So, and you guys recall, Nick Bosa said he's going to be rushing from both sides of the line. He's going to make it a point. So both Braxton Jones and Larry Borum are going to see Nick Bosa out there. Now, I know the Bears, they feel really good about Braxton Jones. You have to feel good about a rookie if you're starting him in week 1, right? For your offensive line. Like that's a really big, job that you're handing a rookie. And that doesn't happen very often. So if it does happen, it's because the team, really believes in that guy. So the Bears have been blown away by the 5th round pick Braxton Jones and how quickly he has developed. But he is going to be going against one of the best defensive ends in the league right now in Nick Bosa, one of the best pass rushers. And so how he does in this game is going to it might be one of the deciding factors in this game and how Justin Fields fares against the 49ers defense. Now we're going to see a lot of Eric Armstead going against Tevin Jenkins. And we'll see Javon Kinlaw going against, at times he'll go against Lucas Patrick, Tevin Jenkins, and, he'll go against Whitehair as well. So if you guys recall, week 8 last year, Javon Kinlaw had actually been placed on IR like right before that game. So he didn't play in that week 8 game versus the Bears. So it was DJ Jones who was out there at defensive tackle for the 49ers. I will say, Lucas Patrick, he's a much better run blocker than pass blocker. Take that for what it's worth. Like I said, if it rains, this is going to be a run-heavy plan of attack for both teams. So, that could fare well for Lucas Patrick. Patrick was ranked 3rd in running back win rate among centers last season with the Packers. And the 49ers did actually see Lucas Patrick in the playoff game against the Packers last season. Okay, so, but what was interesting is that Lucas Patrick didn't play center that game. He played at right guard, and he played terribly. But I'm not going to judge him off of that because he was playing a different position than his usual center position. So I don't know. I'm not going to really judge him off of that too much. But yeah, I mean, I think the Bears have made a concerted effort to improve their offensive line. And right off the bat, they're going to be tested by this 49ers defensive line. And I've mentioned Nick Bosa. I mentioned Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, right? But and Samson Ebukam as well. I didn't mention him, but Nick Bosa and Samson Ebukam are going to go against Braxton Jones and Larry Bourne. What I didn't mention is the fact that, as we know, the 49ers defense does rotate their defensive line players out quite a bit. And so we're going to see some new guys out there. And what some of those guys are going to look like, it'll be interesting to see. So I'm expecting a big game out of Nick Bosa. We all know he's been talking about 20 piece. He wants to get a 20 sack season. And just based on how he looks, based on, how he's been preparing for the season, I have to imagine he's going to get that 20 piece, especially there's one extra game in the season this year. So good chances Nick Bosa gets that. But it's going to start with this game, right? As I mentioned, last season, week 8, he had 2 sacks against the Bears. How many do you guys think Nick Bosa is going to have in this game? Let me know in the comments, and I'll move on to the next position group here and what that matchup may look like. So the Bears run game doesn't look different from the depth chart standpoint, right? They still have David Montgomery and they still have Khalil Herbert. But the 49ers didn't face David Montgomery last season. He was dealing with an injury in that week 8 game. So there are some differences there. David Montgomery, obviously a bigger threat than Khalil Herbert. Although Khalil Herbert actually, their run game was actually having a lot of success, especially in that first half of the week 8 game. The Bears were running screens and you add in the threat of Justin Fields and the zone read, and it kind of had the 49ers defense off balance a little bit to start that game. They settled in that second half, but this is something that is going to be important for the 49ers to not do again in this game. They have to be on top of their game when it comes to defending the Bears run game. And I think they have the pieces to do it, right? I think at times last year, if you guys recall, Fred Warner, it took him, the first half of the season, kind of everyone was just not on their A game. Fred Warner included, even Fred Warner admitted to that. And so this year, week 1, I think these guys are ready. I hope I'm just not being biased, but I feel like Fred Warner is going to have a good game as well. You think about the fact that last season, week 8, it was Fred Warner, no Azeez Al-Shaair, no Dre Greenlaw. It was Fred Warner, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, and Marcel Harris playing linebacker in week 8. So that maybe could have contributed to the 49ers defense not looking as good defending the run in that first half. I don't know. But definitely could have been a contributing factor. And I think the 49ers are better equipped to handle the Bears, run game. But at the same time, it's going to require a lot of, discipline and awareness for what they do. Jason here says Montgomery is more power than speed. Kinlaw should be able to stop him. Yeah, I do have high hopes for Javon Kinlaw. I think he's looked great, this preseason and throughout training camp. He looks ready to go. So I'm excited for him to be out there. And the 49ers, they want Javon Kinlaw to be a run stuffing guy, right? They want him to clog up the middle of the line, to absorb the double teams and things like that. So I think he will be that guy sooner than later for the 49ers, and that'll open things up for everyone else on this defensive line. So definitely feel good about Javon Kinlaw in this game. And let's see. Todd, he is predicting 2.5 sacks for Bosa in week 1. I like that, Todd. That's a good prediction right there. Let's see. Gennaro says rumors in Bears camp is Jenkins is still having problems with holding. So Tevin Jenkins, as we mentioned, he's a second-year player for the Bears. He's a projected starter in week 1. As Gennaro says, he's having problems with holding. So something to keep an eye on in this week 1 game. Like I said, this Bears offensive line, they have high hopes for, the additions that they've made or the changes that they've made to it, but they're going to be thrown into the water, thrown into the fire, I should say, and they're going to have a very tough matchup in the 49ers defensive line right off the bat. So we're going to see if Tevin Jenkins, holds up, and if he doesn't holds up. I didn't even mean that ironically. Sorry. But yeah, I mean, something to keep an eye on if he holds on to some of our defensive linemen. David said that rookie is about to get his first taste of NFL caliber talent with Nick Bosa. Not just NFL caliber talent, because anyone who's on a NFL roster, you can argue, is NFL caliber talent, right? Nick Bosa is not just NFL caliber. He's like future Hall of Fame talent, right? So yes, that's going to be tough for the rookie, and we'll see how he does. I mean, like I said, the Bears feel good about him, but he's going to have a very, very tough go at week 1. So he might be a fine starter, eventually, right? But I don't know if it's going to be in this week 1 game. And as a 49ers fan, I sure hope not, right? I hope Nick Bosa has an amazing game. All right. Jason asks, who are the Bears going to double team? Whoever they do, the other guys are going to dominate. It's a lose-lose for the Bears. Exactly. In the question of who do the Bears double team, I think the low-hanging fruit for double teams is Nick Bosa, right? A lot of attention is going to go towards Nick Bosa. But I think they're going to find rather quickly that guys like Javon Kinlaw, are going to demand that extra attention as well. So to your point, Jason, yeah, it's a pick your poison kind of thing with this defensive line, and, putting more attention on one guy is going to open things up for another guy, and it kind of snowballs from there, right? So definitely interesting. Cleo says, I still miss DJ Jones. Yeah, we all do. DJ Jones was amazing. He was a run stuffer. In fact, he had believe he had a pretty good game in this game. Yep, hold on. I'm going to share with you guys really quickly. So if you guys look at, let me clean this up for you guys. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Here we go. Remove the comment. Oh my God. Okay, here we go. So if you look at, let me zoom in. So these are the run defense grades, right, for week 8 last season against the Bears. DJ Jones he scored the best. And I also want to say that PFF is by no means the end all be all, and, how we should, think about weekly performance. But more often than not, it does give you a good idea. So DJ Jones and Jimmy Ward had some really good run defending grades in that week 8 game. And interesting enough, the top 3 guys on this list aren't with the team anymore. Well, they aren't going to be playing in this week 1 game. Jimmy Ward is on short-term IR. DJ Jones and Contavious Strait are no longer on the team. So the 49ers are going to have to find other players on this defense who are going to step up and, be those run defenders. Fred Warner, as I said, we expect Fred Warner to have a good game every game. K'Waun Williams also no longer with the team. Samuel Womack is going to have to fill in those shoes. K'Waun Williams, when I rewatched this game, K'Waun Williams made a lot of great plays in the run game. And Samuel Womack does have some big shoes to fill. Based on what we saw in the preseason, we have to feel good about him being able to do that effectively. And we're hoping in this week 1 game, he's able to build off of that momentum that he had in the preseason. So really excited about that. But yeah, I mean, I miss DJ Jones too, for sure, made an impact in that week 8 game. And we hope that Javon Kinlaw will have a similar impact in this week 1 game coming up. Kelly says our wide 9 scheme is vulnerable at times to runs up the gut. Hope Kinlaw is ready to ball. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Javon Kinlaw has big shoes to fill for DJ Jones as well, who was a big run stuffer, for that defensive line. So, but I feel good about Kinlaw being that guy. He looked very aggressive, in the preseason when he did play out there and, through that training camp. So I feel good about what he can bring. But yeah, they're going to have to be on their A game when it comes to the Bears run game. Everyone thinks the Bears are terrible, but let's also remember that anything can happen any given Sunday. If a team is not on their A game, there's a chance they can lose the game. So the 49ers on paper, obviously the better roster, top to bottom, but they have to play their game. They have to do everything that we know they can do, right? So, hey, Jason says there are 10 loose liked out of their peeps. Smash that like button and show your support for the legend, Steph. Appreciate it, Jason. Yeah, we're trying to get to 35 likes on this video, so make sure you like this video if you have not already. Let's go, people. I appreciate you guys. And by the way, if you guys didn't know already, I am going to be announcing a new giveaway at the end of this live stream, so make sure that you keep it locked right here. All right, let's talk about the next matchup here. So the Bears wide receivers are drastically different now than they were in that week 8 matchup. Let's take a look. So we have here, this is better. Okay. So in week 8, it was Allen Robinson, good receiver, but never seemed to quite, click, in Chicago with the new regime, new offense with Justin Fields. Kind of just, I don't know. It seemed like Allen Robinson didn't really want to be there, and combination of that and the Bears not really knowing how to use him or maximize him. So Allen Robinson was there, but definitely I think he'll probably have a bigger impact with the Rams. And then the wide receiver 2 in week 8 was Darnell Mooney, and their third receiver was Marquise Goodwin. So, I mean, even last year in week 8, this isn't the best receiving core, obviously, right? But you can argue that it got worse this offseason for the Bears. They now have Darnell Mooney, which Darnell Mooney, actually, I think he's a great player, and I have him on a couple fantasy teams as well. I think he's going to have a good year working as a wide receiver 1 for this Bears team. I think he's ready to take on that bigger workload. And he looked good in that week 8 game against the Niners. Actually, Emmanuel Moseley had a pretty bad game by his standards in week 8. I know we just finished looking at the run. Was it let me see. Hold on. I'll pull up the PFF grades because yeah, looking here. So if you look at the run defense grades, Emmanuel Moseley, he was number 6, right? So he did great on run defense, but when it came to, defending the pass, not as great. So let's see. Let's look at coverage. So Emmanuel Moseley was actually last on the list. He had a 30.6 coverage grade from PFF in that week 8 game. I hope you guys can see that. Yeah, you guys can see that, right? So, and so Darnell Mooney was kind of giving him fits. I don't know what side Darnell Mooney normally lines up. If he, lines up on both sides of the ball, then he'll see a lot of 49ers Mooney, Charvarius Ward, and he'll see a lot of Emmanuel Moseley maybe if he plays on the right side. But I would be a little worried about Emmanuel Moseley going up against Darnell Mooney, just because seeing what, Emmanuel Moseley looked like in week 8. But who knows? Maybe it could have just been a one-off performance. But let's continue looking at the list here. So Darnell Mooney, the Bears' new wide receiver 1. Then they added Byron Pringle. He's a new starter for this team. He's projected to be the outside wide receiver, opposite Mooney. Pringle, former Chiefs player, Didn't really do anything with the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback. So why should I imagine that he's gonna, have a huge impact with the Bears? Certainly, I mean, volume and targets are going to be on his side, right? But that doesn't always equate to, being an impact player. So I don't know how I feel about Byron Pringle. I am not threatened by him. And I'd feel good if Emmanuel Mosley was going against Pringle. I would prefer Charvarius Ward cover Darnell Mooney. Now, the third wide receiver, I honestly don't know. They drafted Velus Jones Jr. In this year's draft, and he's definitely an option to be the third wide receiver, but are they really going to give him that many snaps in, week one? I don't know. They have Quantimus St. Brown, one of the newer additions. I believe he was on the Steelers last year, so he's a candidate to, get some snaps as the third wide receiver, maybe out of the slot. And they also have Dante Pettis, made the Bears 53-man roster. He looked good in some preseason action, but I don't foresee him getting a lot of playing time in this game, but who knows? Maybe they have something up their sleeve. They, want to set him up for a revenge game. Maybe they have a touchdown play, drawn up for him. I don't know. But I didn't include him here because I don't imagine that he's going to be the third wide receiver for the Bears. So definitely between Velus Jones Jr. and St. Brown for them. So yeah, a lot of new faces for the Bears wide receiver unit. And the 49ers cornerback unit got a facelift as well. I mean, I mentioned the fact that the 49ers have added Charvarius Ward, who we feel really good about. 2021 Week 8 game is Emmanuel Mosley, Josh Norman, and K'Wan Williams. K'Wan Williams, like I said, he had a good game. Josh Norman, coverage, not so much. He got 2 fumbles. He forced 2 fumbles, which, we always appreciate. But it's Josh Norman, okay? I'm just going to leave it at that. We feel a lot better about what the 49ers cornerbacks look like now with Mosley, Charvarius Ward, and Samuel Womack, who figures to be the starter at slot. He doesn't figure. He's going to be the starter at slot. So yeah, like I said, K'Wan Williams, who made a bunch of nice run stops in that Week 8 game. Samuel Womack, he's going to have some big shoes to fill, but he looks ready to do that. And like I said, Week 8 last year was by far Mosley's worst game of the season. I checked. It was his worst game of the season. So hopefully he doesn't repeat that type of performance. I don't think he will. And I think having a solid defensive line in front of him and having Charvarius Ward on opposite of him, I think that helps Emmanuel Mosley out a ton as well. So I think this cornerback group is set up for success, especially in this Week 1 game. And I'm excited for the Mooney versus Mooney matchup that we are bound to see, right? All right, let's talk about the 49ers linebackers. I mentioned already, Week 8, it was Fred Warner, Flanagan Fowles, and Marcel Harris. On what planet? Like, it's serviceable. It's serviceable for sure. And I like DFF. Marcel Harris, he flashed here and there, but it's not our usual Warner, Aziz, Greenlaw, starters at linebacker, right? So definitely a drop off there. Week 1, we're definitely going to see Fred Warner. We're definitely going to see Aziz, and we're definitely going to see Dre Greenlaw. Although, interesting enough, Dre Greenlaw is wearing a no-contact jersey as of yesterday. Not sure why. But hopefully he is good to go for Week 1. Fred Warner in Week 8, I mean, he had a great game. He broke up a pass to Cole Kmet in the end zone. And so I think that this linebacker group is ready to go up against, the Bears tight end, Cole Kmet. He's solid, Kmet is. But, I mean, I feel really good about the 49ers linebackers Fred Warner had 1 sack as well in that week 8 game. So solid performance from him. And I would expect another solid performance from Aziz and Greenlaw if they're out there uh, in this game. So I feel really good about the linebackers. And like I said, I feel really good about 49ers being able to defend the run better in this game than they did in week 8 of last year. That is if, the Bears don't pull out some, magic tricks out on them and, give them something that they haven't shown on tape before, which is entirely impossible. And that's the allure of week 1, right? Any team can go out and do something that they've never shown on film before. And yeah, it could just kind of take teams by surprise. So that's the one, unknown factor of week 1. And always take previous matchups with a grain of salt because it's not necessarily always going to be the same results or the same game. So even though these two teams saw each other in week 8 of last season, it doesn't feel like that long ago, right? But a lot is different. As I mentioned, a lot of new faces on both sides of the ball for the 49ers and the Bears going into this week 1 game. So it could be an entirely different game. We don't know. Let's talk about the safeties really quick. So Talanoa Hufanga and who? Okay, that's the question. We don't know who. Last year, it was Hufanga, Jimmy Ward, and Tavon Wilson, who got some snaps in there as well. Look, the 49ers are going to miss Jimmy Ward. He had a really good game against the Bears in week 8. And Talanoa Hufanga, we're all excited about him. He has looked good, leading up to week 1. But he's going to have to show that he's matured, right? Because I think the challenge that the Bears, give you, especially with the threat of Justin Fields and him being able to run, is that you have to have really good recognition and discipline. You can't bite too hard on something, and you're basically taking yourself out of the play when you do that. So Hufanga has to be, very sound in his recognition, again, in his discipline. Defending the zone read that the Bears are going to run, with Justin Fields and their running backs in this game. Let's talk about Justin Fields. Okay. I haven't talked about him quite enough yet. And saving the best for last, right? So it's been reported that Justin Fields holds a grudge against the 49ers for passing on him. Do you blame him? I mean, I would too. I thought the 49ers were going to draft Justin Fields at 1.2. So he was probably getting those same vibes, that same feeling. And I think that made it a little extra personal for Justin Fields. And I don't care what anyone says. Justin Fields played a good game versus the 49ers in last season's week 8. So he did turn it up for the 49ers. He was running left and right. He was giving them issues, especially in that first half. Like I mentioned, he was effective on play action. Escaping the pocket is huge for him. And that's the challenge for this defensive line, right? Because you could collapse the pocket, but when you're going up against a quarterback who has a good feel for the pocket and who understands like his escaping lanes, then, no matter what you do, no matter what pressures you get, someone like Justin Fields could still make a big play out of it. So it's something the 49ers have to be careful with. When you're collapsing the pocket, try not to leave, open lanes and things like that, which is always a challenge. And so I expect Justin Fields to have a lot of success with that, much like, Russell Wilson had with the 49ers. And hey, it's not so much a 49ers suck at defending this thing, okay? Because it's not. A lot of defenses struggle with defending the threat of the run from a quarterback who, is very athletic and can make plays with their legs like Justin Fields. And so he was having a really good game in that week 8 game last year. And the 49ers have to limit that from Justin Fields as much as they can this game. Look, Fields is going to get his, okay? It's just the advantage that he has when, he can make plays with his legs. He can extend plays. And there was one play actually that stood out the most to me in that week 8 game. It was a 4th and 1, and he rushed for a touchdown. It was in the fourth quarter, and he pretty much more than once actually in that week 8 game, he like ran through like all of the 49ers defense. So, yeah, it's going to be a challenge for sure for this defense. But like I said, it's going to be a lot about the 49ers discipline in how they, defend the zone read and, keep Justin Fields in check, keep Justin Fields in the pocket, I think is one of the biggest keys to this game for this 49ers defense. In week 8, Justin Fields finished 19 of 27, 175 passing yards. He had a touchdown. He had an interception. He had 103 yards rushing, 1 rushing touchdown, 2 fumbles. Again, both forced by Josh Norman. And yeah, I mean, like I said, 103 rushing yards. That's running back numbers right there. And a rushing touchdown, like I said, that one that he scored on 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter. So he's a huge threat with the ball in his hands. And that's something that the 49ers have to account for on every single play. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I see this matchup going. I think, like I said, the 49ers have the better roster. They have the better defense in comparison to the Bears offense here. And so they should beat the Bears pretty handily. They just have to play their game and they have to do it well. They can't get caught up in, making mistakes, in having, slow recognition. They need to be very disciplined in how they defend the Bears run game. And if they do those things, I think everything will work out well in the 49ers' favor. And as I also mentioned, with the weather potentially being a factor, with it being a rainy game, possibly, that I think that favors the 49ers defense, because I think that if the 49ers are really good if a team is one-dimensional, whether that be if the 49ers defense can force a team to just be pass heavy, they're going to lock that down. If a team is just run heavy, they're going to lock that down. It's the balanced approach and balanced success that, forces teams or defenses to struggle a little bit. But I think if it's going to be a run heavy game, like I said, I think that favors the 49ers defense. And I'm predicting 2 sacks once again for Nick Bosa. I think Eric Armstead gets a sack in this one as well. Yeah, let's say that. All right. Let's look at some of these comments really quick before we move on. Kelly says, wasn't Mosley coming off an injury last season for Chicago? I'm not worried about E-Man. He wants that huge contract. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. He might have been, actually. I don't quite remember. But yeah, I mean, he could have been coming off an injury, and that definitely would have, impacted his effectiveness in that game. Although it doesn't look like he was. If you look at, so this is Mosley's weekly grades. So he played 3, 4, 5. He didn't play week 6, but he played in week 7. He had a much better game in week 7. And like I said, week 8 was just by far his worst game of the season. So, he didn't just come back from an injury on that one. But yeah, I'm not worried about Mosley either. I think he's going to have a better game in this one than he did in week 8. He has to, right? I mean, like I said, he had his worst game last season. I can't imagine him having the week 1 being his worst game of the season again, right? That can't happen. So I also feel good about Mosley, and I feel good about these corners going into this week 1 matchup. And like I said, rain or shine, I think the 49ers are going to force the Bears into a one-dimensional situation where they're going to be forced to, run the ball because they can't really get a pass game going, because I think Charvarius Ward and Emmanuel Mosley are going to lock that down. Now, I'm still a little questionable about the safeties, right? We don't know who's going to be out there. And that could potentially, there could be some leaks there that open some things up for the Bears. But I feel good about the corners. Yeah. Todd says, I have a feeling on both sides these quarterbacks may get some calls, but that should not be called. I really hope we aren't sitting here talking refs on Monday. Ooh, yeah. I mean, week one, I feel like week one, it's when refs try to assert their dominance a little bit. Like they try to assert like what they want, teams to really like stop doing and things like that. So it could get crazy. I hope it doesn't. But yeah, I mean, hopefully that's not the case. Yeah, Callie says no Josh Norman out there this year. Yeah, that already is a good thing for the 49ers, right? Callie says, I'm scared of Dante Pettis. Whew, he might bring out the little cat celebration. I don't know. They might try to do something cute and try to do a little touchdown play for Dante Pettis. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Dante Pettis revenge game. Fear it. Todd says, concerned if it rains that Mitchell might get hurt in that weather. I think they need to hold him back if it is wet. Well, Todd, to be fair, it's week one. I don't think you hold anyone back. And certainly not in games that matter, right? Which all of these games matter at this point. You're going to have your running back one out there regardless. Now, if the score gets out of hand where the 49ers are up by a lot, then sure. I mean, maybe give Mitchell some rest. But no, Mitchell's going to be out there, and I think that he's going to get a large workload in this one with some Jeff Wilson Jr. sprinkled in as well. Now, on the topic of potentially getting hurt, last I saw, Soldier Field was in terrible condition. And you add the fact that, it might rain. I hope that this field is not shit. I hope this field is okay and none of our guys get hurt. Because if any of our guys get hurt, I'm suing. I'm kidding. But yeah, no, definitely don't want that to happen, right? So, but that's literally a risk in every game, right? Someone could get hurt in every game, and you don't hold someone back in games that matter and plays that matter, when wins are on the line, right? All right, so I mentioned that, look, that's a preview of the Bears and the 49ers defense. Now I'm going to move on to some other segments. Like I mentioned, if you guys have been following 49 Carats podcast for quite a while, you know about all the segments. The one I'm going to do right now is the Twitter Tizzy. So the Twitter Tizzy, you guys know, if you guys have Twitter, you guys know that it gets absolutely insane on there. It's a little toxic, there's always an argument happening. What I saw in this last week is that the outside media is already running absolutely wild with Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo, and they're putting out content. They're putting out clickbait. Every article has one of their names in it. It's ridiculous. At the same time, 49er fans have a hand in these things blowing up. And what you guys share and what you guys choose to retweet, quote tweet, comment on, you are giving that engagement and you are giving that attention. And so if you think that it's whack that the outside media is talking about Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo and trying to make something out of nothing and making drama, don't engage. I know it's hard because you want to be look at this idiot talking about, this, but they're doing it on purpose. It's calculated. They know they get clicks talking about the 49ers, especially in this quarterback situation. So just don't engage. That's all I'm going to say about the Twitter Tizzy. We don't need to talk about it any further. It's already a headache. Look, I want to talk about cap or no cap. This is one of my favorite segments. Okay. And so for those of you who are unfamiliar with cap or no cap and what that means. So when someone says cap, because they think something you're saying is not true. Okay. When they say no cap, they agree with you 100%. All right. So, cap or no cap? Do the 49ers make an in season change at quarterback less than halfway through the season? This cap or no cap was inspired by Peter King's prediction, by the way. Peter King says that he thinks the 49ers make an in season change at quarterback less than halfway through the season. All right. So I ask you guys, cap or no cap, do you think this happens? Let me know in the comments. I'll tell you what I think. I think this is absolute cap. I think Trey Lance is going to have a long leash this season, just like with the 49ers had with Jimmy Garoppolo last season. You know, we were all waiting. When are they going to put Trey Lance in? This year, same situation, opposite, right? I mean, I think Trey Lance is going to have a long leash. I think they're going to let him make his mistakes so long as it doesn't, impact the 49ers' ability to win, which it shouldn't, right? Because this team is so stacked everywhere else. They have an excellent defense. And so they really shouldn't lose many games, if any, because of Trey Lance solely, right? So that's the question I want to ask you guys. Cap or no cap? Do the 49ers make an in-season change? So if you say no cap, it means that you think that they will make an in-season change. You think that they go to Jimmy Garoppolo halfway through the season or less than halfway through the season. Callie says no cap. He thinks Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the quarterback here soon. Jason says cap. Oh, Callie said no, I meant cap. Yeah, okay. I was about to say, I was like, questionable. But no, I let you guys choose whatever you guys want. Todd says cap as well. Yeah, I agree. I think it's cap. And for the reasons I mentioned, I think Trey Lance is going to have a long leash. And it would be absolute malpractice if, because I've seen a lot of people say, I think they're just going to give Trey Lance these first 2 games. And if he loses any one of these 2 games, they're going to go to Jimmy Garoppolo. And that would be absolute malpractice if they did that. How are you going to draft a quarterback as high as you did, invest so much in him, and then only let him be your starter, your like unquestioned starter, not injury related starter, for 2 games, and then say, that's it. We don't trust you. Like, how are you going to say that? You can't do that. And so I don't expect the 49ers to do that. I think they are all in on Trey Lance, and Jimmy Garoppolo it was something that fell into their lap, being able to keep, Jimmy. So I think he's just there. He's there for support until he gets traded. Jimmy Garoppolo is. So it's a weird situation, but I think the keys are in Trey Lance's hands, and it's up to him. And I think cap, they are not going to make an in-season change at QB less than halfway through the season. That's absolutely ridiculous. All right. We'll do more of the cap or no caps in other episodes. I hope you guys liked that segment. Now for the fun stuff, for all you guys that stayed to the end of this episode, I appreciate it so much. Now the good stuff, I'm going to be announcing. Oh, wait, what did I put here? Oh, yeah, I meant to put that one earlier. Okay. I'm announcing the 49 Carats podcast new giveaway. Look, I told you guys that I was going to do a giveaway for a Deebo Samuel related item after he signed his extension. That happened quite a while ago now. Training camp happened, and then I was very busy. And so now finally getting around to it. I have a Deebo Samuel signed jersey. I actually have it right over here. Hold on. It's noisy because it's in some protective bag, but it's right over here. You see, it's PSA authenticated. And so this is a jersey that any of you guys can win. The only thing you have to do is be subscribed to the channel, which I know a lot of you are already. Appreciate that. And 2, you have to reply with a screenshot of your sub. So literally just now, I shared this tweet to my Twitter account. And if you guys don't know my Twitter, it is, one second. It is 49 Carats Podcast, or sorry, Steph 49K. That is my Twitter account, Steph49K. And so if you go to my Twitter, I'm going to pin this to my profile. You are going to respond with a screenshot showing proof that you are subscribed to this tweet, okay? Send it to this tweet. And that is how you are entered. You get one entry for doing that. But there are opportunities for extra entries. And I'm only telling you guys right here, right now, okay? If you retweet that tweet, if you retweet this as well as doing the bare minimum of subscribing and sending me the screenshot, if you also retweet it, you get an extra entry, all right? There are other opportunities for extra entry, though. If tomorrow, when I go on live, if you drop your Twitter in the comments, in the live stream comments, you get another extra entry. Thursday, if I go on live, you drop your Twitter in the comments, you get another extra entry. So you guys are going to want to join these live streams and be active in the comments. Let me know where your Twitter is so I can write down how many entries you're going to get, right? So make sure that you guys not only enter, but take advantage of those extra entries, and you give yourself a bigger chance to win the Deebo Samuel signed jersey, all right? The contest ends next week after the 49ers Bears review live stream, okay? That's when I will announce the winner. Look, guys, I appreciate you being on today and for watching, and I hope you guys like this episode. I'll be live again tomorrow. And tomorrow I'm going to be previewing the 49ers offense versus the Bears defense. So we'll talk about that later this week as well. I'm going to be having a Bears podcaster on with me to talk about, the matchup and what you guys can expect from both sides. All right. So appreciate it, guys. Hope you have a good rest of your Tuesday. We are so close to game day. Peace. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Love you guys. Thank you.